Welcome everyone to the July 2020 presentation of Her Story with me, Karen Bartlett. It's been going now for 12 months and the whole purpose of this presentation is just to allow women or girls to tell their stories from their hearts. None of them are forced, they all do it voluntarily, and just to bless you so that you can hear a true life story of how someone's gone from dark experience into light and into security and strength. Today I have a special interest in this young lady. She is my son's fiance. She's also the mother of my youngest granddaughter, and her name is Benita Robinson. No relation actually to Liz and Steve Robinson, pastors at Riverside Church. I just want to say from the outset that the Bible tells us that all have fallen short of the glory of God. That means every single person can't match up to God's standards. That includes me and you. It includes Victoria Beckham. It includes Mother Teresa. It includes every single person. So anyone that's sharing their life is opening their heart to you. And I just pray that today's story will really if you like, means something to you, that you'll be able to connect with the story, you'll be able to hear Benita's heart through this and how things have really turned around. But I just want to offer, even at this stage, this short introduction. It's not going to take anything away from what Benita will say, but I just want you to know that if you need to, through the content of this talk or for any thoughts that you may have, if you want to contact me, please do so via social media and also via Riverside Elim Church. They're contactable through all sorts of social media sites, and the telephone number, obviously we're not open at the moment for physical visits, but you can always leave a message, and if you want to leave email addresses or give us a short message, we'll get back to you. Their phone number is 01299 405 535. But I really hope that you enjoy this. I'm so grateful that you've tuned in and that you've given us your time. And so have a great day, and please share this.
Evening, ladies. I just firstly want to say thank you to Karen for providing this amazing platform, Her Story, for us to open up and talk freely as women and discuss our journeys and how we have come through what we may have come through to come to where we are now, and our relationship with not only ourselves but with God. Excuse me, sorry. So I'll just start off by introducing myself. I am a little bit nervous. And my name's Benita Robinson and I'm 35 years old. So I'm going to start right at the beginning. I was born into a family that I believe now was already broken before I was even born. But I adore my parents. I adore my dad. I adore my mum. I have an amazing brother who's 7 years younger than me, who I absolutely think the world of, and I have a sister. Like most, we don't always see eye to eye, and she's 18 months younger than me. Our childhood wasn't particularly the best. There was a lot of domestic abuse in the household, not on us or just between my mum and dad, and I think a lot of that may have stemmed from the fact that they'd been together from the age my mum was 14 and my dad was 17, and my dad being black and mum being white, so they had to overcome a lot of difficulties to get to where they are then. So my dad drank a lot. Not in the day, I wouldn't have ever said he was an alcoholic. He definitely wasn't. He was a typical man who went to work, he worked really hard, and then on the night he'd come home and he'd have a drink. So home life itself was never like the typical home life that I as a child assumed it was. So, a little bit like the Waltons, everything's perfect and everything's great and dad's hugging mum, mum's hugging dad, and that wasn't the case in our house. I'm sure it went on for a lot longer than I thought, and the earliest memories is like mid-teen, when I really learned about what was happening with my mum and dad. So that was rough. I would never say I didn't feel loved in my house, because I did, but not the kind of love that I know maybe like I give to my daughter now. I had a huge extended family. My dad was, one of 12. My mum was one of 8. So I was never lonely. I got on really well with my nanny gran, and I called her nanny gran because I had older cousins who called her grandma and younger cousins who called her nanny. So I just called her nanny gran. And though as like our little family unit, we never went to church, we didn't speak about God, we didn't pray, we didn't do anything like that. But when we went to my nanny gran's house, it was plain to see she was Christian, and she had this love, for the Lord. And there'd be pictures and just everything in the house of him. And like whenever we'd stay at Nan's, she'd line us all up as children, and with this big old like tin bucket, and we'd all stand behind one another, about 6 of us who were close in age, and she'd wash us all and then braid our hair, and we'd all have to go in the bed and say the Lord's Prayer. And she'd ask each and every one of us what we were thankful for, and sometimes as a child you'd think, oh, I'm so tired, not tonight, Nan. So that was my first kind of teaching, really, was through her. But at that point, never really grasped the concept of it. I kind of just wanted to be close to her, so I was intrigued by the things that she would say. The first time I went to church with her was not like what I expected it to be. It was I remember she had all these hats in boxes, and she'd like have these massive hats on, and she'd dress really nice, and we'd go to church and she'd know the pastor and she'd know everybody, and you'd walk in and it was just like a warm feeling and happy feeling and a peaceful feeling, and everyone was just so nice to you. And that was the first time I didn't understand what was going on. Now I know that the Holy Spirit was there. I know that now. But then I didn't. And I think for years I just kept like holding back from it and using my nan as the excuse, because I was like, I just want to be close to my nan. That's it. So that was my first kind of little path into Jesus and stuff like that. So as far as like home life and stuff, I never felt unloved. But as I started to get older, that's when I started to realise that there was severe problems within the family. There was times when we had like a cupboard downstairs where Dad had made it into a play area for us, and there'd be times we'd lock ourselves in there, and I'd hold my little brother and he'd have his hands over his ears because of the arguing, and he'd wet himself sometimes. And there'd be times in the night he'd come in my bed because he was scared. And I remember saying, I think I was about 11, 12, like, why do you stay? Why are you here, Mum? And she was like, he's just had a bad day. It's none of your concern, and stuff like that. And that went on for a long time. There was times when Dad had beat my mum up that bad she was unconscious on the kitchen floor, and it was about 9 o'clock on the night. My brother and sister were in bed, and our house, it's a council house, we lived on a council estate, was tiny, and I remember the floorboards were really thin, so where our my bedroom was, I used to lie on the floor and listen to them in the kitchen to find out what was going on. So I'd ran downstairs and dad was just in shock, and he just said, well, you know, it's her fault. And when my dad had drinking him, I didn't know who he was. He was never aggressive with me, he was never nasty with me. I think there was a deep-rooted issue with him and my mum that as a child I didn't know about. So he just left her and he went to bed, and I was just like, he's going to get up in a minute once he knows mum's up, and he's going to start again. So I ran upstairs, got my brother and sister changed, and I took them to my nan's, who I'd say she lived a good 15-20 minutes away. And in hindsight now, I look back and I think, you know, if my grandchild, I don't have a grandchild, but if I did, came to my house with her siblings, there was no way I would let that 12-year-old or 11-year-old grandchild then at maybe 9:30 on a night walk home. So yeah, that was that. So, but other than that, my parents were great with us. Separately, there was never like a unity of them together. And you know, my mum worked so hard for us to have everything that we wanted to have and stuff like that. So moving forward from that, coming into teenage years, and I remember my mum had worked 3 jobs so we could have a family holiday. And at this point, I kind of knew that something wasn't quite right and something was happening between them. And Dad brought us to the airport, and I remember they held hands. And I remember looking back and I was like, wow, like it was so strange to me. And I kind of just stood there trying to capture this moment of my mum and dad actually showing each other love and affection. And I was like, that's what I want. You know, and I remember when we did get on holiday, I used to get really embarrassed about praying, and I don't think I did it a lot. And I was like was saying it in my head and thinking, oh, you know, and I never asked for things, but when I did pray, it was because I really meant it. I knew that much, and I was just like, you know, I remember saying, I just want a family that's normal. I just want a dad that loves my mum, and I just, you know, I don't want to have to keep parenting my brother, you know, because he's breaking. I just wish I could have a family that loves me and wants us to be happy. So, you know, and then you wait, don't you? And you think, yeah, tomorrow everything's going to be great. Mum and Dad are going to be really happy because God's going to have it all sorted. But that didn't happen. So we came back, and there was a man working next door at our neighbour's house, and he just gave me the chills instantly, like I didn't like him. And I remember going to see my nanny gran, because I was there all the time, and I was like, Nanny, I don't like him. And she's like, you know there's evil in the world. And I said, yes, Nan, I know that. And she said, you know, but God will always protect you, Benita. The Lord will protect you. You're his child. You need to open up your heart. And I used to think sometimes, Nan, I've come here for you to give me advice and to help me. And every time it would be, Benita, you are a child of God. So I got used to that then. So, but the thing was, she planted a seed then. And I kind of thought, well, I am protected and I'm going to be okay, and everything's going to be okay at home and stuff's going to be great. So a few weeks maybe after that, I was about 14, 15, and Mum and Dad decided they were separating and getting a divorce. And to be honest, I was okay with it. My little sister wasn't, and I remember us having a heated debate about that. And I said, you're just selfish because you want something that isn't there. I said, I'm not unhappy that like they've separated, because I haven't got to be hurt by it all anymore. Like, that's why we should be happy. But she never saw it like that. But I suppose that's because she didn't have to take on the responsibility of, you know, cleaning up the blood off your mum, holding your mum when she's broken and she's crying, or, excuse me, running around after, you know, a child. apologise. So so that was that. I was excelling, absolutely fantastic at school. I was, you know, top of my class, athletic, loved athletics and stuff. And even though mum and dad had separated, me and mum just had this amazing relationship and life was good. So even though it was a broken home, life was good. Dad had left mum in a lot of arrears with the council and stuff, the council tax and stuff like that. So I ended up getting a job. So yeah, I was 15. I ended up getting a job and working at a hotel called Jonathan's Hotel and Restaurant. I was on about £3.20 an hour. No, actually it was £2.50 an hour first. And I'd just give most of my wages to my mom, and everything was great. Like school was great, work was great, home life was great, and you know, I'd always see my dad. Though it wasn't really seeing him, because my dad's a very reserved, quiet man, so you could go and see him and he really wouldn't talk to you really. But other than that, like, you couldn't hear the arguing anymore, and the, you know, seeing your mum with the black eye and stuff. So, and then I noticed my mum was going out more, and I was looking after my brother and sister more, and she just changed a little bit, and I felt like I was losing my mum. And that's when she met her partner, the man from over the fence, who I told you about. And that's when everything changed drastically. He was stomach churning. Like, I just couldn't be around him. And I remember going to see my nanny gran and saying, please promise me I'm protected, please, Nan. I said, because I don't feel protected, I'm scared. And, you know, she used to just hold me and say, it's okay, you know. And she'd pray with me. And she'd like, you need to come to church with me, you need to do this more and stuff. I didn't. And the first incident with my mum's partner was, he just used to come into my bedroom with, he'd just got out of the shower and he'd have like a towel on and he'd expose himself and sit there casually having a conversation with me like it was nothing. And I kind of just dismissed it, never said anything. And it went on like that for quite a few years. The one incident that happened was, I'd been out with friends. So I think I'd been at my friend's house probably doing homework. I was about 15, 16. And I came back and my brother had an issue where he would cry in his sleep a lot. And I assumed that was just because he had a lot to take on as a kid. And that was maybe his way of dealing with it. So I could hear him, so I crept upstairs and got into bed with him. And that's when I heard him wake up. And I remember holding my brother so tight, because I thought, whatever you have to do or feel that you're going to do to me, that's fine, but you're not hurting him. So he came in the room and I could feel him on me. And then my mum must have realised that he wasn't in bed, and she got up. And I do believe if she hadn't have got up, it could have been a lot worse. So I'd gone downstairs and said, look, Mum, I can't do this anymore. This is what's going on. Thinking that the mum I knew before she met him, who is fantastic, would understand, and she didn't. And she was like, well, you know, you walk around the house like this and you act like this, and you know, he sleepwalks, and he's just said he's been sleepwalking. And I was like, okay, we'll dismiss it again then, you know, it doesn't matter. I knew in my heart, if it had been my sister or my brother, she wouldn't have been with him. So I used to question why. So why is it okay for him to do all this stuff with me? So, but as per usual, get up, go to school, go to work, come home. And it went on like that for quite a few years, to be honest. But I always found comfort with my nanny gran. So, you know, she would always just know what to say. And even though I didn't quite understand the process of her going to church, and I didn't understand why she wanted to go to church. And I remember once we were sat there hours and she was like, just read the Bible. And I was like, I can't read the Bible. I don't understand it now. I'm not a Christian. I can't be a Christian. I don't know how to be a good Christian. And I remember her saying to me, nobody is, Benita, like in a very strong Jamaican accent, because she never lost it. I said, I can't do it. And I remember her saying, but you can. You know, she said, there's people out there who go to church who are deaf. There's people out there who have Bibles but can't read. She said, does that make them not a Christian? And I was like, no. She said, so there you go. Because whatever you feel in here, the Lord knows, Benita. And she said, if you love with everything that you have, then you are a Christian. If you love him as much as you tell me you do, then you are. And you know, and I said, well, will I be protected? Because I haven't been, Nanny. Like, I haven't been. And she just said, keep the faith. I used to think, here we go again. Like, this isn't helping me, Nan. Stuff's happening in my life and I can't control it. And then, so, like everything else, I just got on with it. So I left school now. So I was leaving school, passed all my GCSEs, and I was going to college to do childcare, still had my job, because I wanted to work with children, and I just wanted to help and make sure people wouldn't have to endure or be more aware of the signs around people like my mum's partner. So, excuse me. So I was in a couple of months into college, everything was going well. I got a boyfriend. That was a kind of first for me. My dad was very strict as we were growing up, like extremely strict. So, like I wasn't even allowed to have sex education at school. That was at home. And trust me when I tell you, it was not what they taught at school. I remember my dad saying to me, look, Benita, you know, men will take a piece of you. Every time you give yourself to somebody, they will take a piece of you. So if you intend on living that life, by the time you are a full-grown woman, there will be nothing left of you. Do you understand that, young lady? And I was like, yeah, you know, yes, Dad, I won't ever do that. And it kind of stayed with me, actually. So I met this boyfriend, and you know, everything was great and he was all right, but I weren't really that interested. It was just because everyone else had one, really, I guess. So yeah, everything was good. Stuff at home was awful still, but everything else, and I think I just kept the mentality of like, you know what, it ain't gonna be forever. I'll eventually move out. And I also thought, well, he's leaving my brother and my sister alone, so I guess I'm strong enough to deal with it. So everyone was going out a lot, clubbing, and I wasn't. I didn't like it. I wasn't really interested. And friends kept pestering me one night to go out, so I went out. I loved to dance, so that's one thing I did love to do. We went to a nightclub called Club Millennium. And I remember there was these podiums, and I was like, oh, I need to go up there. It's going to be amazing. Let's dance to my heart's content. And there was a guy that I had spotted me, and he was very handsome and rather attractive. And he said, oh, can I buy you a drink? And I was like, oh, no, thank you. No, I'm fine. I can buy my own. And he was fine. He was like, that's great. And so then, like, that was it. I carried on dancing, sipping my drink. And I started to feel really weird. Like, didn't know what was going on in my body. I felt instantly drunk. And a lot of things, so I do apologise, I don't remember the certain times and days, I don't remember. But that night, that man raped me and left me in the cold, probably to die. And for years I couldn't remember anything, but I could remember not crying. And I just looked up to the sky when I was in and out, and I kind of just froze. I couldn't feel anything anyway. And then I remember not a lot. And then the next, I think it might have been the next day, and I was found, and I went to the police station and the hospital, and my mum was called, and her partner came, and there was loads of tests done and stuff like that, and photos taken, and a lot of questions. I was really tired and very sore and very hurt, and at that time I was living with my nan because my mum had kicked me out because I asked her to choose between me and Colin, and she chose him. So at that point I was living with my nan. So I moved back home because obviously I needed to be with my mum. My sister didn't believe me. She thought I was lying, and I remember sitting there. The police came a lot because obviously I couldn't remember things. I could remember smells. I would constantly bath and rub and scratch. There was like a permanent smell in the back of my nose, but there was other things I couldn't remember. So the police was quite at our home a lot. And I remember one day my sister saying, "You do know she's lying, don't you? She's a liar. She just wants to be back home." And I remember the police lady saying, "Well, I can show you. If you come to the police station and we'll show you the pictures of your sister, and you know that she's not lying." And that was hard because I thought, my sister doesn't believe me. It's gone all the way around college. Some of them don't believe me. My mom has asked me to move back home with a man that molested me. And I just felt scared and lonely and frightened. And I just thought, where do I go from here? And I knew I had to tell my dad. And I remember phoning him, and he never came in the house after he separated with Mum, and I sat in the car. And my dad wasn't a huggy person, and I just really wanted to be held. I wanted him to just hold me and just say, "Look, B, everything's gonna be fine." And he looked at me with the most utter disgust in the world, like like a proper disappointment look. And he said, "Well, what was you wearing?" He said, "Because certain things that you wear is not good, Benita. You know this. You shouldn't have been out. What did you do?" And I remember just crying and saying, "I'm sorry, Dad, I'm sorry." And that was a constant thing. Like I was sorry to everybody. And I remember leaving that night and lying in bed, and I was more hurt by my dad saying what he said than what had actually happened. And I remember crying so hard, and it was really weird because I got changed. I don't know what time it was, and I just wanted to go and see my nanny Grant. And it was so dark outside because it was just before Christmas, and I wasn't scared. And it's weird because everything that had happened was at night, and it was dark, and bad things happen at night, and it was so dark, and I just didn't feel scared. And I think it's because I knew I was going to see her. And I remember saying, you promised me I was protecting Nana, you promised me. And she said, "Benita, the Lord didn't do this to you." She said, "He loves you. But there is evil out there." And I said, "Well, why is this evil? Is there something I'm doing? Is it the way I'm dressing? Is it the way I look? Is it the way I act? Am I making these people want to do what they want to do to me?" And my nan, she just looked at me and she just said, B, she said, you are allowing things to consume you way too much. You need to give it to God and you'll feel better. And I was like, but I won't feel better now. I don't want to feel better now. I just want it to stop. I just want everything to stop, you know. And I'm sure she said, like she always does, you know, don't have self-pity. You know, it'll eat you alive and give it to God. And she said that a lot to me. And then and then I hit a brick wall. So I'm you know, so from that incident, I didn't get any counselling or anything like that, and I kind of just put it to the back of my head and thought, you know what, I'm gonna get on with it. I left college because I just couldn't cope with the rumours and everything, and I started working in my friend's salon and training to do what I do now, and that's hairdressing. And I think life just kind of got, you know, just carried on, just got, you know, didn't have many boyfriends and stuff like that. I was quite happy working, and I was still living at home. So I'd say from then to about 26, life wasn't bad, you know. I got on with it, I worked hard, and then one night I suffered with cold sores and I broke out in a mouthful of cold sores. And you know, it's whatever age you are at, you want to be with your mum. So I phoned my mum, she was still with her partner at the time, and I can't remember why I slept downstairs, but I slept downstairs and he was still there and he was still drunk. And I remember lying on the settee early in the morning, about 6, 7 o'clock, and he came in and I was awake and I could smell his breath, and he was just looking at me, and like he lifted the blanket up and he touched me, and he said something quite provocative that I won't repeat, and I freaked. My brother was in bed, my mum, I don't know where, my mum wasn't there, and I literally, like, my brother was like, what's happened? I said, I can't do it anymore. I can't do this anymore. It has to stop, and it stops now. I remember my brother phoned my my dad. My dad went to pick my mum up, and they had a blazing row, and you know, he was like, you are letting her down. Like, you have, because my sister had children at this point, and he said, we have grandchildren, and if he can do this to our 25, 26-year-old daughter, then what will he be doing to them? You know, so that all got kicked totally off. And my brother said to my mum, you know, you make a decision, it's either him or me. And I kind of sat there and thought, I asked her that same question when I was 15, Rick, and I'm telling you, no, she ain't going to choose you. But she did. She chose my brother. Even though it hurt, because I thought the only reason why you are leaving him is because of Rick and not me. And, you know, she was like, well, you don't know how much this has hurt me, and knowing that he's done that to you and he thinks about you like that, maybe if you didn't look this way, and it was always, oh, maybe if you didn't look this way, or, you know, and I used to just think, is that what people think of me? Do they think I'm this person because how I may look, or, you know, I've got mad crazy hair, or, and I used to just think, like, what is it about me that is so wrong that people just want to do what they think they can do to me and get away with it? So I decided to press charges, like, finally, against him, and the police come and question me, and they hounded me, my mum and her partner, to drop the charges, and he offered me $6,000 to drop the charges. And a little bit of a regret that I did drop the charges, because I couldn't be bothered, if I'm honest. I just couldn't be bothered to give him any more of my time. So yeah, so she did leave him for a little while, and she did get back with him, and, you know, again, just put it back to your head and you get on with it. And then a couple of years later, I turned 28. And my friends was like, "B, you just need to meet somebody. You seriously need to meet somebody." And I was like, "Oh, I don't want to meet anybody. You know, no one's going to want me. You know, damaged, broken." And then I met my partner who I'm with now, Oliver. And he pestered me, texting me, "It's gone date, it's gone date." I'd leave it a week and I'd like reply back and whatever. And we went on a date, and well, I just felt totally head over heels first time. And you know, very long story short, we wasn't together very long, and I got pregnant, and I was scared, as was he. You know, we didn't know each other at all, and we decided that we was going to get rid of our baby. And I remember going to the clinic, and Oliver had left, and you know, he had to go to work, and I lied and I told my mum I was going for food with him, like she didn't know anything. And so our relationship had got somewhat a little bit better, not the best, but it got better. And I'd moved back because she hadn't been very well. And so I remember sitting there, not really wanting to be there, but I sat there anyway. And I remember one of my friends who I work with and still do now said to me, "Just take him out of the equation, B, you know, and he won't be with you regardless of whether you're with, you know, have the baby or not." And there was a woman sat next to me, and there's just something weird, not weird in a bad way, but she just seemed to take great notice of me. And I remember thinking, I've just got to get some hair. If I can get some hair, I can, you know, sort my head out. And I remember getting to the top of the stairs to go down the stairs, and she said, "Excuse me," like the woman who was sat next to me. And I was like, "Yeah." And she was like, "You don't want to be here." I said, "Pardon?" She went, "You don't want to be here." She went, "Go and get your scan and go." And I was like, I didn't know this woman. I'd never met this woman. And even now, I believe she was put there to help me. Like, if that sounds weird, or because she didn't have to do that. And I remember phoning Ollie as I came out, and my dad and my mum. And it was really weird because he was trying to text me to say, "Don't do it, don't do it, don't do it." And then I was trying to text him to say, "I can't do it, I can't do it." So yeah, we decided to keep our baby, and I met his parents, and we wasn't together at all. Like, we were having a child together. He wanted to be part of her life, but we just wasn't together. And I remember meeting his family for the first time, like his mum and dad. And I just thought, wow, these people are different. Like, their whole family was different compared to my family. Like, it was a family that I'd always wanted but never had. So like, they did things that like you'd see on the telly, like they had food together, they sit at the table, they play games, they go for walks. And I just thought, I could never fit into this. Like, I am not about, like, we are so different. And I think sometimes, like, I got jealous because it was like, oh, I so wanted that and I never got that, and self-pity again. And I remember being pregnant, and it was so hard because I really wanted to be with her dad, and he was just so scared and needed to do what he needed to do. And I remember going to my nanny gran and saying, like, "Why, Nan? Why? Like, what is God's plan? What is the plan, Nan?" I said, "I'm 29, I'm single, I'm pregnant, and I'm living with my mum." I said, "I don't see a plan here." And she said, self-pity first. And she said, "You need to have faith." And I just looked at her, and she held my hand, and she said, "Benita, the good Lord would never put your heart in the hands of a monster or your child." She said, "He isn't ready for you, and the Lord is making him ready. And if he is ready, then he will come back." I said, "Okay, all right then." So I remember going home that night, and something stuck, and I remember crying. It was coming to, like, you know, the end of my pregnancy, and I was like, Lord, just help me, like, whatever this plan you have for me and my child and her dad, I don't have a clue what the plan is, but I'm gonna trust you. I'm gonna hold my hands up, and I'm giving it to you. So I'm not gonna doubt you. I'm gonna trust you. And I literally thought, oh, okay. And I felt like, whew, I felt a goodness, but still not quite there. And I am 29 now. And I remember Karen, and I think she knew there was so much more to me than I let on. And I think that's why our relationship was a little bit like not fully there, because I couldn't let people in fully. And she invited me to the tent in Stourport. And that's when things started to change. So I remember sitting there, and George Miller was there, and I was like, I shouldn't be here. I don't go to church. I don't read the Bible. I shouldn't be here. And it was always that feeling of not being a good Christian, or not being good enough, or not having a clue about anything. But I started to know that in here I did, and I knew what I felt, and I knew I loved him. Do you know what I mean? And I remember they were saying this prayer, and they said, like, if you feel you need to come up, then come up. And the tent was packed, like, absolutely. Even me doing this, I'm nervous, so I'm not, like, overly confident. And I just couldn't help it. And I just stood up, and I was like, oh, I'm saved. Like, I'm going to have the lightning bolts, and it's all going to happen, and I'm going to see the Holy Ghost, and everything's going to be amazing. And it wasn't. I did feel something. I just didn't feel that. And I'm like, did I need that to know? So, yeah. So even then, I was still trying. And then me and Bella's dad got back together, and we got engaged. And it's been hard steps and slow steps. And it's very funny because the slow steps I've grown. And I remember going to Riverside Church, and I can't remember the lady's name, but it was just after the Rose Convention, I think, if that's right. And she'd spoke to someone in church, and I felt like the message was for me. And I remember driving home with Bella and Ollie, and I was like, I want to watch The Passion of Christ. And he was like, what? I was like, yeah, I really want to watch that tonight. And he was like, Vinia. I was like, no, I want to watch it. And I remember Bella was in bed, and we sat down and watched it. And I remember it was the part when Mel Gibson was on the cross. And I cried like I had never cried before. My heart was so... The only way I can explain it is it was aching, like totally aching inside and hurting, like someone that I loved more than anything in this world. I just physically watched them be murdered, and I couldn't breathe. I was like, and I said, I need to speak to your mum, because I thought she will tell me if I'm going insane. She will tell me that I'm just being silly. And she didn't. And I was really scared because I couldn't understand what was going on. And, you know, when you talk about a lightning bolt, and like I did just, that was when I felt, this is real, you know, and this is real. And I remember sitting there saying, I just want to be by myself. And I remember going upstairs into our bedroom, and I remember sitting on the bed, and there was a cushion across my lap, and I put my hands out, and I just said, hold me, Lord, just, I give myself to you and everything that's happened, and I forgive everybody. I just don't, I want to be who I need to be, and I'm sorry, and forgive me, everything just came out, all this raw emotion. And I remember closing my eyes and I felt I was being held. And I remember just my mouth started to go, and I can't even explain it to you. My mouth was going. I didn't know at the time what it was, and it just sounded like a totally different language. But I couldn't stop myself. I couldn't physically. I kept trying to stop, and I couldn't. It kept going and going and going and going and going and going and going. And Oliver was like, "You were speaking in tongues." I was like, "No, I wasn't. I'm not a Christian. I'm not a proper Christian. Can't read the Bible." So, you know, I'm not a proper Christian. That didn't happen. But I knew I was. And I knew it didn't matter that I couldn't read the scriptures and I couldn't tell you where's what. Or that I don't go to church every Sunday. Like, but I know how much I love God. I know how much he loves me. And as I've gone through the years, the brokenness, the damagedness, the bitterness and the self-pity and everything, that it wasn't that he didn't love me and that he wanted all that to happen to me. That there's things in this world that nobody can control, because there is evil. But where there was my darkest times, where, you know, I did try and take my life and I did take drugs and did get really bad, I shouldn't have been here. And there was times when people abused me, but I'm still here. And I'm still here because there's a love much powerful and higher than any love on this earth. And it was that love for me that, even though I had to endure all that, I'm here now, and I have a healthy little girl. I have a family that I prayed for when I was 10 or wherever old I was. I have a family. I have my, you know, family in Oliver's family, the family that I always dreamed of. And I have an even greater relationship with my mum now. And I feel like when me and Oliver were not meant to be together, it's because God was mending my relationship with my mum that was broken. So now my daughter has a fantastic grandmother in my mum, and she protects her and she loves her and she adores her. And it's like when I think about everything my nan used to say about self-pity, I think it's true sometimes, because you just have to let it go and realise that no matter how strenuous something is and how hard something is and how broken you are and how down you are, that God's love will prevail, and it will help you. You have to have, and I sound like my nanny granny, you have to have the faith. Because even though, like I said, I don't read the Bible all the time and I don't know it back to back, I know what's in here. And sometimes when everything else is failing in your life and you feel like you've hit the bottom, he's there. It's not his fault. It's not your fault. But he's there. And I'm still learning about him, and I'm still learning to be that better Christian and have that better relationship, and it's a constant learning. But I know in my heart that I'm loved. I have no fear. I'm not scared of anything, because I know that Jesus will always protect me regardless of anything. So I have gone over, I've been trying to watch the time, and I hope, this has touched somebody, or even if it hasn't, just know that nothing's perfect. Life is not perfect, and it's one step at a time, and beauty really does come from the darkness. Darkness will never win. But if anyone is affected by anything that I've said, or has been touched, or feel like they need someone to talk to, please get in touch with Riverside. I'm sure Karen at the beginning of the video had said that, because things like that, like, don't do what I did, and don't brush it to the back of your mind, because you never will be who you truly are meant to be. And it's only now that I am who I am meant to be through the grace of God, and most importantly, forgiving myself, because God teaches us to forgive others, and we often forget to forgive ourselves. So forgive yourself. Stop lying to yourself, because though everyone else might not know that you're lying, He does, and your relationship will not reach its peak if you don't forgive yourself and stop lying to yourself. So thanks for the time, and I'm sorry I've run over, and yeah.